The Mapplethorpe trial draws a vocal crowd.
I'm here because I'm queer and I'm mad as hell about all this.
I don't target any group. Whatever the law is, I've been enforcing it throughout the years, and I'll continue to do it, irrespective of what people say.
The nation focuses on Cincinnati. The story coming up.
Channel 5, your exclusive 24-hour news channel. This is News 5 Tonight with Jerry Springer, Norma Rashid, John Gerard's weather, and Greg Horde with sports. Now, Cincinnati's News 5 Tonight.
Good evening. The eyes of the nation are focused on Cincinnati tonight in what is one of the most important and controversial legal issues ever to face this town. The Contemporary Arts Center and director Dennis Barrie are charged with obscenity for 7 pictures in the Robert Mapplethorpe art exhibit. The trial started off with a bang, at least outside the courtroom it did. We'll begin with our team report with News 5's Jeff Hirsh, telling us about the vocal opponents who took center stage.
Trial! Art on trial! Art on trial!
Art on trial. That's what the 200 protesters outside the courthouse were saying, and they were saying art on trial is an outrage.
No art police!
It's a farce. It's a farce. It's a fallacy what's going on. And we're here to try to stop that, and hopefully we can get something done and try to get Dennis Barrie back into society.
CAC Director Barrie and the Arts Center itself were indicted over 7 pictures out of 175 in the Mapplethorpe show. 5 showed homoerotic and sadomasochistic behavior. 2 showed naked children. The protesters marched in front of the courthouse for 2 hours, then went into the middle of Main Street and stopped traffic, doing things deliberately designed to shock Middle America. Even though traffic was blocked, police decided not to make any arrests here, figuring any show of force would only make things worse.
Well, I think that was part of our concern, why we didn't send a team of police officers into the crowd. Again, our intent was to assist them in their demonstration with the least amount of disruption possible to the citizens of the city.
After blocking traffic in front of the courthouse, the demonstrators then walked down Main Street towards Fountain Square.
These streets are our streets! These streets are our streets! These streets are our...
They went to the square and to the Contemporary Arts Center itself before heading back to the courthouse.
I'm freezing to death, but inside my soul is burning. In 1990, we should not have to be standing here fighting for our rights that should automatically be ours.
Those rights, according to protesters, freedom of expression, artistic and sexual. In the conservative community, which is Cincinnati, the gay movement has not been particularly vocal politically in years gone by, but what happened here today is obvious proof that that is changing.
We feel that this issue is such a strong one that we had to make our presence here.
Shame! Shame!
Jeff Hirsh, News 5 Tonight.
Police did not make any arrests today, although sheriff's deputies were wearing rubber gloves, worried apparently about disease. Police say they'll review videotapes of the protests before making any arrests.
With all the commotion on the streets outside the courthouse, it's easy to forget that the trial that's causing all the controversy is now underway inside. It was jury selection of the obscenity case against the Contemporary Arts Center and its director, Dennis Barrie. Both are facing charges because the Mapplethorpe exhibit. While things were hectic outside, it was business as usual inside.
We estimate there are approximately 150 people out there. As far as interruptions, the courthouse itself, the answer is no. There might have been some inconvenience to some of the public because we closed a couple doors for security purposes.
Barrie and the CAC were indicted over 7 pictures in the Mapplethorpe show. The Mapplethorpe trial is being labeled a landmark case across the nation. It's the first time an art museum and its director have been accused of pandering obscenity. As we continue our team report, News 5's Marty Pieratt shows us while the world is watching our battle on Main Street.
The whole world is watching! The whole world is watching!
These protesters are absolutely right. The whole world is watching Cincinnati and its battle over the Mapplethorpe exhibit. These pictures are being sent around the world, and viewers are asking, is Cincinnati fighting obscenity, or is Cincinnati censoring art?
A Cincinnati art gallery and its director went on trial in Cincinnati today for obscenity.
It's one of the top stories out of New York City and in the heartland.
In Cincinnati, an important obscenity case goes on trial. The case stems from an exhibit of photos by the late controversial artist Robert Mapplethorpe.
These are pictures we are accustomed to seeing from some other city. But tonight we are sending these images out to eyes far away from Cincinnati. In newspapers across the globe in the morning, they will read about this. This is the making of a People magazine story on the Mapplethorpe trial. Bill Robinson covered Simon Leese's battle with Hustler magazine publisher Larry Flint, and he says there is even more national interest in this issue.
It's a landmark case, and there's strong feelings on both sides. And, of course, the supporters of the Mapplethorpe people believe very strongly that it's a First Amendment case. Although I think that a lot of people, including perhaps America's silent majority, may really feel that our forefathers didn't have anything like this in their intent when they framed the Constitution.
To be sure, the words spoken inside and outside the Hamilton County Courthouse will be published and broadcast around the globe in the next few days. The whole world is watching, some to see if Cincinnati fails a great test of artistic freedom, and others on the other side waiting to see if Cincinnati holds accountable artists and museums for what they do. Marty Pieratt, News 5 on the Night Beat.
Jury selection will continue tomorrow morning. This trial is expected to last at least 2 weeks.
The Northern Kentucky police officer critically wounded in a gun battle with his wife's ex-husband has new hope tonight thanks to experimental surgery. Doctors in Pennsylvania implanted an artificial lung into Sergeant Robert Palmer. Ellesmere Police Chief Bill Hyler talked with the surgeon.
He said that he was stable and that the next 12 to 24 hours that there may have to be some adjustments made depending on how well Bob tolerated the procedure and how well the procedure is going to tolerate Bob.
Officer Palmer, you'll recall, was shot on Labor Day. His 2 children, 3-year-old Casey and 2-year-old Robin, were killed by this man, John Bundy, who was himself killed in the shootout. Doctors say the next 24 hours are critical to know if the implant will save Robert Palmer's life. There's a guilty plea tonight from the man accused of touching off a massive fire at a local abortion clinic. That fire nearly destroyed the Margaret Sanger Clinic in Mount Auburn 5 years ago. Today, John Brockhoeft pleaded guilty to federal charges that he poured gasoline in the basement of the building and lit it. Brockhoeft could get an additional 10 years in federal prison and a $250,000 fine. It could be 2 to 3 months before Brockhoeft is back in court for sentencing.
In other news, there are more legal problems tonight for former Hamilton County Commissioner Joe DeCourcy Jr. He's being sued by the man he had a head-on wreck with earlier this year. Larry Money was seriously hurt in that crash. He's now filed a civil suit against DeCourcy to cover his injuries. Police say DeCourcy was driving drunk when his car collided with Money's car on I-275. Money is asking for an unspecified amount in damages. His lawyer says Money is recovered, but he's not 100%.
Before, he has not been able to work the number of hours that he's worked before, plus he's not able to do certain kinds of things. He's restricted in his lifting, bending, stooping, those kinds of things. So he's recovering, but he has permanent injuries.
Money is suing DeCourcy and DeCourcy's wife. Hamilton County is not a defendant in the case.
And when we return to News 5 tonight, Saddam Hussein makes a threat and oil prices shoot through the roof. We'll tell you what to expect at the pumps.
And some people on the west side are trying to get the school board on their side against the Queen City Barrel Company and others allegedly polluting Price Hill. Stay with us.
In the Persian Gulf, the fear of war is still shaking up our economy tonight. Crude oil prices shot through the roof. Here's how it looks. Oil prices hit an all-time high today, $38 a barrel. At the same time, stock prices tumbled on Wall Street. The Dow Industrials were down almost 60 points, the lowest level in more than 14 months. Meanwhile, President Bush is trying to warm up the U.S. relationship with South Africa. Mr. Bush met with South African President F.W. de Klerk at the White House today. The two praised each other's efforts in the fight against apartheid. President Bush also pledged to help South Africa form a permanent democratic system. Meanwhile, the wife of South African leader Nelson Mandela is facing serious charges tonight. Winnie Mandela was charged with assault and kidnapping in the death of a teenager 2 years ago. The teen was allegedly murdered by Mrs. Mandela's bodyguards.
Here at home, concerned citizens of Price Hill took their fight for clean air to the Cincinnati School Board tonight, looking for some support. The group says the pollution is having a bad effect on Price Hill school children. Supporters are targeting Price Hill companies like Queen City Barrel, the site of many protests over the last few months. They say this company and others are not following pollution laws, and the bad air is making the kids and residents sick. They're asking the school board to look into the problem.
To assure that the problems of the children of Lower Price Hill are assessed and that direct services are in place to make sure that they're fully addressed.
I think it's very, very important for us to work together to investigate what is going on and to determine how we might certainly impact that situation so that we get better results with the children who are there.
The Price Hill Task Force also says that the pollution is causing learning disabilities among school children.
And if you're looking for some good news today, boy, it comes in the weather. What a beautiful day, John.
It was one of those days that you write songs about, because you could just, everything was so crisp and clean. It looked like somebody just...
That's true.
No, they didn't write that song. But yeah, it was a beautiful morning, though.
It was. It was a beautiful afternoon.
Chilly.
That's right. A little bit chilly, absolutely. Now we're talking about food. We went from songs to food. Now we're talking chili. It's going to be chilly tonight as well, and maybe hot tamale. Who knows? We'll check it out. Clear skies right now.
You were going to say that.
I know. I knew that you knew that I knew that you knew. Anyway, 50 right now. My forecast is next.
The Reds were off today, but they were playing one down in Houston that could shrink that magic number even further. This is Greg Horde. I'll tell you how the Dodgers came out against Houston coming up.
We're learning all sorts of stuff about the weather, other than the fact that it was cold this morning.
It was very cold this morning.
Yeah, it really was. We checked in with some weather spotters. Mount Washington, 40 degrees this morning. Craig Ludecker. We found out in Kenton County this morning, Taylor Mill, Kentucky, frost on some of the rooftops.
I would say frost on the pumpkins, but are they there yet? I'm not quite sure.
I used to tell my father, Dad, you got frost on the rooftop, you know, because he was graying, but...
I get it. I get it. You got to tell me these jokes
And that's where I got my
yeah.
interest in weather from. No, not really. I was interested in weather a long time before that. A couple of weeks at least. We're going to see a clear night tonight. What was the old saying? Frost on the rooftop, but a fire in the stove or something like that was? I don't know. Fire in the belly? All right. I don't know. I'm not old enough to know all those sayings. I don't know. We've got clear skies all across the tri-state right now, and I can tell you that it's going to stay that way throughout the night tonight and probably into most, if not all of the day tomorrow. And really no big changes coming. Now, ordinarily, I'd look at this with you, and together we try to figure out what in the world is going on. And I'll tell you what's going on. A huge ridge of high pressure completely expanding itself all across the nation from east to west. And this is doing two things. It's keeping storm systems to the north of us, like the one over the Great Lakes right now. And it's also keeping the moisture that would feed into these storms well to our south. And therefore, the clear skies all across the tri-state. But it is of Canadian origin, this high pressure, so it has still some cold air with it. And fortunately, the radar scan isn't picking up any precipitation, because it very well might be snow around these parts, or at least it would have been this morning had there been a storm around. But fortunately, it's high pressure, not low pressure, controlling our weather right now. And that's really good news, too, because although it's going to be another cold night tonight, not quite as cold as last night, but still rather chilly for this time of year, we're going to see a rapid warm-up tomorrow, because as you can see clearly, there's very little rain to worry about. The satellite picture showed very few clouds to worry about, so each of the next few days with more and more sunshine and more southwest winds feeding in behind this departing cold weather high, we will see a warm-up tomorrow, and this warming trend will carry us right through the entire week, like up to 73, I think, for tomorrow's afternoon high right here in Cincinnati. 64 and 37, the best we could do today. No precipitation today. The air quality, you might be interested to know, was good, but of course you probably already knew that if you were outdoors today. Clear and chilly tonight, low in the mid-40s, southwest wind 5 to 10. It'll be clear at daybreak and 49, and later on tomorrow afternoon, all the way up to 73. It'll feel like Bermuda shorts weather after today's 64. Mostly sunny skies, a bit breezy, though, from the southwest at 10 to 20. Here's my 5-day forecast, and really, it doesn't get much better than this any time of year. You've got to like the tri-state when we're forecasting 73s, 76s, 80s. I mean, come on, what do we do to deserve this kind of stuff? We've all been behaving, I guess, but keep it coming, because it's going to stay nice for a while.
It looks great.
It does.
Thanks a lot, John. In commentary tonight, the success of the Reds and the 3-game winning streak of the Bengals have local sports fans on the edges of their seats. Jerry has some thoughts on how winning affects the community in his commentary tonight. Jerry?
Thanks, Norma. Maybe after a year of shame and disappointments of the Rose demise and Bengal mediocrity following a Super Bowl year and Stanley Wilson and would UC ever win again, maybe the Cincinnati sports world was due for a turnaround. And from famine to feast, could it really be Cincinnati, the city of champions? And this may well be the year. I was thinking about that while spending the weekend out in San Diego with the Reds, watching them sweep the Padres, burying the Dodgers in all the talk of choking in the process. While in the press box, word came over the ticker, Bengals trounced New England 41-7. They're 3-0. And suddenly it's not too silly to think of playoffs and pennants and a World Series and Super Bowl all in the same year. Eat your heart out, San Francisco. The torch has been passed to the middle of America. This is Cincinnati's year, the city of champions. And sure, the prospect's exciting, but Why do so many of us care and get so worked up about it all? I mean, it's just a bunch of rich kids playing a game, and yet you can't help but notice the incredible impact professional sports is having on our town. And it's more than entertainment. It's that in modern America, professional sports is about the only vehicle left to demonstrate a positive sense of community. Oh, certainly if disaster strikes, a tornado hits, or a hurricane ravages a town, everybody pulls together and there's a real feeling of shared concern, a sense of community. But other than disasters, what happens, or what do we do in our daily lives that brings us all together? If Kroger has a record year in profits, do we all rally on Fountain Square? Who-day, who-day, who-day think's going to beat them cost cutters? The fact is, we're all into our own lives, our own families, our own careers. But the one thing we all share is the nationally reported success or failures of the pro teams who carry our name. We dedicate a whole section in our daily newspapers to it, as we do our nightly broadcasts. We televise the games, listen to Marty and Joe on the radio. How many of us, at least once today, saw, read, or heard something about the Reds and Bengals? No, it isn't life and death, but it is our world. It's Cincinnati. And right now, we're looking and feeling pretty good. Play ball.
The Reds are taking a day off, but they're watching probably a game very closely tonight.
I would say so.
Because the Dodgers are playing right now. The Dodgers
Houston,
win.
yeah.
But you know what? Who are we kidding? It's over. It's over. After
It
this
is.
weekend sweep, you know, honestly, they'd have to all leave the planet to lose.
Well, that's happened, but I don't expect it
They've
in this
left
case.
they've left the planet?
Well, more or less,
Yeah.
figuratively. You know,
The
just
Phillies
kinda
in
like
64.
Phillies in 64.
The Dodgers in 51.
Dodgers in 51, the year I was born.
Yeah. Oh, the
Those are
Red
two
Sox.
good
Red Sox in 78. But let's get on with other sports.
Let's do that. Yeah. Maybe you all are like me. I mean, there are 9 games left in the season. The Reds can clinch the division by the end of the week, but it hasn't sunk in yet. Now, after a decade of disappointment, the boys are back, and they're wearing red. But before we get all carried away, let's listen to Lou Piniella, who's had a whole heck of a lot to do with bringing this thing together.
We got 9 games at home, and we still got some work to do. We can't get careless because certainly any of these teams can beat you, but we took a giant step this weekend here in San Diego.
Now, does that man look tired or not? Maybe he can breathe easy here in just a few days. Now, also tonight, we got some news about a guy who, as an individual, says an awful lot about this Reds team. I'm talking about Jose Rio. He was up, he was down, he was in, he was out, and now, within an arm's reach of their first division title since 1979, just like the team, he's coming on strong. Today, Rio was named National League Player of the Week. All he did last week was pitch 2 complete games. One of them was shutout. He worked 18 innings, and he owned hitters. Allowed 1 earned run, 7 hits, and struck out 18. For the opposition, he was a Dominican devil. Now let's go to the game that counts tonight. L.A. and Houston, they were playing in that dead zone dome. And Dodger manager Tommy Lasorda wasn't looking very happy tonight. In the bottom of the 5th, Craig Biggio laces this Fernando Valenzuela pitch into left field. Eric Yelding scores, and the Astros led 3-2. The game is now in the 8th. L.A. now leading 5-4. So let's look at that countdown to the pennant. While the Reds were off tonight, the Dodgers are still playing, as we just told you. The Reds' lead is 5 games, pending the Dodgers-Astro game, and the magic number still stands at 5. Now scores. We got scores for you. Let's take a look. San Diego, San Francisco tied at 1 in the 4th. If you can believe this, the Mets lost again. Now, they trailed the Pittsburgh Pirates by 3 games. I'd say that one's over. Over in the American League, Blue Jays leading 8-3 in the 8th, beat Milwaukee. And KC is all over the A's 9-3 in the 8th, but that don't mean a thing. Now, in high school soccer tonight, Roger Bacon was taking on St. Ursula, the 5th-ranked team in the city. And just take a look at this sunset. Well, that wasn't the only spectacular scene out at Bacon. How about St. Ursula's Susan Miller? Here, off the inbound pass, she puts in the goal. Why is that significant? It was the 84th of her career and sets a St. Ursula scoring record. She scored 3 more times in the game. St. Ursula defeats Bacon 4-1. Now, when the Bengals made James Francis their #1 draft choice out of Baylor, they said, he had a chance to be a high-impact player. A chance? This guy comes on like gangbusters. Francis pushed the Patriots around like they were wearing powdered wigs and stockings Sunday. He had 2 quarterback sacks, made 4 tackles, forced a fumble, and generally wrought mayhem on New England. As far as he's concerned, it's just a job.
We're just trying to get to the quarterback where we can. We're fortunate out in the right place at the right time to get those two. But, you know, it's just 11 guys out there doing their job, and we had a good game today.
No update on that Astros-Dodgers game, but have heart.
That's
It'll come
over.
home.
James Francis, that's great. I mean,
what a stud this guy is.
You know, this Bengal defense is coming very
Surprise
strong.
of the year right
very
there.
Very strong.
Surprise
We're
of the
going to
year.
the Super Bowl. We're going to the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Going to the Super Bowl. We're going to the World Series.
This is Cincinnati's year.
We're done.
Feel
It's
it.
over with. Don't even buy the tickets. It's all over with. Don't worry about it. And that's all the time we have for now. Stay tuned for news updates every hour on the hour. Thanks for being with us.
And we're going to see you again tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourself and each other. Good night.
Good night.